but being idle, being I forgot the word. Risk factor for me is being alone and having too much free time, or even anything access to the internet. I told my mom to make sure that if I come home, all the computers are out, that there's change the password. I don't want any kind of. I need to be a lot more. I need that strictness coming from, probation, family, work.
And we're about to watch a Connecticut parole hearing for a man who was caught in a sting operation, but one of those classic YouTube predator catcher sting operations. Now, the sad news that I have for you is that we don't have the footage for it. Lady Holly and Sir Richard looked everywhere, found out who it was, but realized that they had taken down the YouTube video. We don't know why. Now, the good news that I have for you is after this parole hearing, we are going to watch another one, someone who was also caught in a sting operation, but where we still have the footage of the sting. So what it is a sting and then parole hearing. Now, some of you may have seen that parole hearing already. We played it about a year ago. Only 10,000 of you have seen it. And that's the reason I'm playing it again, because the majority of you have not seen it. Sometimes YouTube shadow bans these things or whatever you call it. Anyways, the interesting thing about the hearing that we're about to see is that he ranks out high on the Static 99, because when he was caught in this sting operation, he was on probation for a real, when I say a real, I mean, it's my understanding a sex offense where he actually did assault someone, where it wasn't just a sting. So he's on probation for that when he is caught doing this. And I think they said he had 3 or 4 other offenses in his jacket. It's absolutely insane that they still only gave him a 5-year sentence for this crime. 42 months actually, to be precise. But anyways, with that, let's jump in.
Paul Sastrum, inmate number 354009.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Paul Sastrum 354009. He is serving a sentence of 5 years, executed suspended after serving 42 months, followed by 30 years probation for enticing a minor by computer. He is to remain on the sex offender registry for life. As of today, records reflect a parole eligibility date of August 10, 2024. There is no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows he has completed the short track sex offender program, the Voices program, and he's currently enrolled in the CDL program. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score falls within the moderate range of risk for recidivism. Utilizing the static 99R, the offender's overall score for sexual offense recidivism falls within the high range. Mr. Sastrum, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
I would definitely like to go home and put myself in more sex offender treatment long term. I definitely need more of that treatment that they don't really provide here. The short term was helpful, but I know that I need that independent. I'm going to actually pay for individual therapy. I wanted to also get mental health evaluation done through the connections or what else is out there. I know I need to definitely work on myself more than focus on others. I have a plan to be at work a lot, helping my family, helping myself. Really, the treatment part is definitely beneficial for me that I know I need. And I'm also going to focus on the CDL, going home and getting my license, which I did not have. Being a lot more open and honest with my boss, my family, myself. I was being very manipulative. I was being very, I can't think of that word, selfish. I wasn't thinking about others. I was just thinking about myself. I was very impulsive. I've learned in here to really focus on myself and not be around other people, staying ticket free, having good jobs, not really relying on other people where before I was. And that's what was getting me in trouble, was all that other stuff. But I definitely want to get a lot more treatment for myself.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sastrum. So we've read about your background, what you've done during this incarceration, in your interview with the parole officer. And based upon those, we have some questions for you. Then we're going to talk about your case and give you a decision. Okay.
Okay.
And we'll start questioning with board member Smith Palmieri.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Sastrum, I listened to your opening statement and I hear a lot of good things in there, right? I hear that I need more intensive treatment. I hear a recognition of some of your behaviors that lead to reoffending. So I think it is important that you recognize the need for more intensive treatment. And whether you seek that on your own or when you get out to probation, I think all of that will benefit you. So I just have a few questions. You know, you have a number of sexual offender type convictions. You have a number of violation of probations related to new violation behaviors related to sexual assaults. You've done a lot of. Why do you think you're struggling, and not still struggling, but why do you think you struggle and are unable to go get help when you find yourself in a relapse space?
The main part was that I was, and it's not an excuse, I was in a lot of the group settings and that wasn't very beneficial for me. And I was trying to work on getting independent, but that was when COVID hit, because I'm a lot more honest when I have an individual therapist, whether it's mental health or it's the sex offender treatment, and that wasn't provided for me. I have a hard time in group because having so much experience, I'm like that sponge that took the knowledge and squeezed it out rather than holding it in. And I was using my knowledge to then help others rather than helping myself. So I was actually taking what I learned to help them, but I wasn't helping myself. And I was being very manipulative and I wasn't telling the truth. I wasn't honest with my family. I wasn't honest with my relationships. I was like, oh, I can get away with the little things. I can get away with the big things. Trying to mask it with work or just saying, oh, I'm okay. Where now, if I'm having a bad day, even in here, I don't care if I'm crying in front of 100 guys, I'm being a lot more honest with my family, saying, these are my struggles. This is my problem. I need help. Having to even like as simple as my boss. I thought my boss was only there to help me with employment. He's actually been a big support system and told me, I wish that you would have told me this because I could have kept you. I also learned that when I'm not working or if I'm like at a downtime is when my head starts going. I'm like, well, let me manipulate and try to find a cell phone or online or internet. And I need to, I can go to him and say, hey, listen, I'm having a couple bad days here. I'm going up the deep end. What can we do about this? Can we get some work on the side? Can I, being able to be a lot more honest outside of family too would be helpful. But that was my biggest struggle, was the group settings. And that's why I said I definitely want to look into, even if I had to pay out of pocket and do individual therapy, I need everything I can to make sure that I hold that in like a sponge and not squeeze it out.
Okay, all right. I think that's insightful. Hopefully that helps you as you move forward in the community.
And the CDL is another thing I didn't have.
What's
to
that?
focus on. And the CDL is a new thing that I've never had, where I'm definitely going to be focusing on a lot of schoolwork and my permit and my endorsement. That's another big thing that's been helping me out as well, is to focus on something besides just always working, is schooling, to stay in the books and go to college,
Okay.
whatever I have to do.
So let's get back to treatment for a minute, Kara. You participated in the short-term sex offender treatment program, but it doesn't seem like you really benefited from it. I read that you found yourself, it was not new information, and you found yourself helping others. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, out of all the treatment that I actually got in prison, the biggest help was actually voices. That was a smaller group. It was a smaller group, and it really made me have a bigger, really understand the impact of victims, not just direct victims, but indirect victims, and how my behaviors that are big, small, whatever, it impacts so many people, and whether it's financial, emotionally, there's so much involved. And it really was eye-opening to realize that I knew I had victims in the case, but like, how do I affect my sisters, my family, my people that knew me, my employers? Like, it really was like, wow, I fucked a lot of people up.
So aside from helping the other group members, were you able to focus in on what your risk factors are?
Oh, absolutely.
So can you give me one or two of them?
One of my biggest risk factors is being alone, like having, I need to stop using tunnel vision. I need to stop manipulation, but being idle, being, I forgot the word, risk factors for me is being alone and having too much free time or even anything access to the internet. I told my mom to make sure that if I come home, all the computers are out, that there's change the password. I don't want any kind of, I need to be a lot more, I need that strictness coming from, probation, family, work. That's a
Well,
risk
I
factor.
would imagine that there was a lot of restrictions on you in the community, which were outlined in your violation of probation on how you tried to circumvent, whether with a phone, the internet, you were on a dating app.
That was me being manipulative.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so, you have 30 years of probation. I read that you thought that was too much probation.
It's a lot, but given the situation, it's fair. Since it's my fourth time, I wasn't expecting that many years because that goes into my 60s. It's definitely a lot that I have to focus on and know that every single day of those 30 years, I have to follow every rule of the law and probation without excuse. A long time, but
Right,
I have to. I'm okay with it now. I accept it.
Okay.
I know I have the lifetime registry.
All right, you have lifetime registry as well.
Yep, and I've always been good with the registry, knowing that I was on time. I would pay the extra money to make sure it was there the next day. Even sometimes go there myself to make sure they had it. That I'm aware of that, and actually, I wasn't really disappointed that I got life because that was kind of in a way holding me back from trying to relocate to other states for like job purposes. Like one of my main goals is to go to, like, for instance, South Carolina for job opportunities. And I wasn't able never to do that because I was afraid that if I did try to move or get away from the situations I was in, one of the restrictions in most of all states is that even if you only have 2 years of sex offender registry, you register for life in most of the other states. And the states that I wanted to go to for work and other personal reasons, I was like, I'm not doing that. That's a lifetime registry. Now I'm like, maybe it's a good opportunity for me to relocate and start my life completely different around people that I don't know.
Okay, well, Mr. Sastrum, I appreciate you answering my questions. I don't have anything else, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anything further?
Just a quick question for Mr. Sastrum. We have your medical reports and you had acknowledged some diagnoses, which we don't have to talk about on the record because we have those reports. And you said that you didn't like the way medication made you feel.
Yeah, medication, I was on.
Okay, thank you.
Board Member Smith Palmieri.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Sastrum, on the more positive side, he has no disciplinary reports. He participated in treatment to address his risk factors. I think our issue here today is Mr. Sastrum's current charges, his criminal history, which includes numerous other sexual offenders type crimes. He has 6 failed opportunities on probation, which all stem from new criminal conduct involving sexual assaults. He readily admits today, that he's been manipulative and sought out ways to circumvent the conditions of probation and do what he wanted to do. I do think that Mr. Sastrum, will benefit from community supervision and community treatment, but for today's purposes, he is not suitable for parole today, discretionary parole, based on his high risk to reoffend on the static 99R. And his criminal history, which just really kind of spells out his risk and his inability to cooperate with the conditions and benefit from all the community super treatment that's had.
Great.
Nature and circumstance, criminal history, and say inadequate, well, no.
That's those three.
Current offense committed while on probation
Okay.
for those three.
Regarding Paul Sastrum 354009, I move to deny parole based upon nature and circumstances of the current offense, criminal history, and current offense committed while on probation. Is there a second? Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Mr. Sastrum, we weren't able to give you parole today. I really hope that you get out there and exercise those plans that you talked about, because you don't want to keep coming back. And we don't want to continue to see more victims.
I agree,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you.
This concludes the parole hearing for Paul Sastrum, 354009. You're all set, Mr. Sastrum. You'll get all your paperwork next week.
Thank you.
Okay, and they denied. Woo, let's give a big clap, round of applause. And let me remind you, right? He was caught in a sting operation, a YouTube sting operation. Now, Holly and Sir Richard looked for the information of this, of the video footage, but the YouTubers had taken it down. Now, what I am going to play for you after this hearing is a sting operation where we have the footage of the sting. So it's a classic catch. And then 3 years later, parole hearing, very much like this. Now, 10,000 of you or so have seen it, so the majority haven't. For some reason, the YouTube algorithm is not friendly to these type of things. I think it's just part of the beast. So there's a good chance you haven't seen it. We're going to play it in a minute. Now, with this hearing, I mean, like, again, they basically, it was like a classic, poacher thing. YouTubers pretended to be a boy. He came in on the app. They pretended to be 14 years old. They then said, you're caught. And he drove away, but they caught his license plate while it was driving away. And then the registration, right? The plate. So then the police were notified about the sting, ran the plate and said, our prince over here is on probation for some similar offenses. Now, again, we have no idea what it was. We don't have the records of it. Connecticut doesn't share those records once it's past 10 years, so that could be part of the problem. But yeah, as we've seen, he's actually rated a high risk on the static 99. I mean, how often do we see someone rated as a high risk on the sham scam static 99? It's like almost impossible. If you're not familiar with the static 99, we've gone through it so many times, I just can't go through it again. But it's a scheme, it's a giant scheme, and it's a joke, and it's pathetic. So if you somehow rate out high, it's like, whoa. And, he tried his classic manipulation. He tried to be like, yeah, it's good that I can't travel outside the state. Oh, I have a CDL license, because why not? They hand those out like hotcakes. Like, wait, we're going to give you a CDL class, but you have to check the box of being a high-risk sex offender, right? Or you low risk. They give it to any sex offender, basically. It's the craziest thing. Again, but what do we know? We're just sheeple. I mean, giving out CDL licenses to sex offenders, nothing. What can go wrong? Anyway, so let's go jump in to the sting operation hearing. Again, if you've seen it, I apologize, but the vast majority of you have not. So let's go.
And said, hello, handsome. And you replied, I mean, I don't know what the conversation was, but then the next sentence was, and you still went on to have ask for sex. And
we are about to watch the parole hearing of a Maine man who was caught in 2021 by predator catchers. We have the full footage of the catch on YouTube. We'll put a link to that in the description below, and we'll play parts of it throughout the hearing.
Go, Shawn. Everybody, Shawn's here to meet a family. I don't think you want him in your store.
All right.
This is not harassment.
It's not harassment.
Yes, it is.
Well, you want to call the cops and let's see what happens? Why are you not saying anything to that? Let's call the cops and let's see. Where are you going, Shawn? This is not harassment. Let's call the cops and let's see what happens.
If you don't talk
The
to me, I'm
cops-
gonna embarrass you.
The cops are very aware. Make sure you don't move your hands anywhere.
Keep
So
your hands out your pocket. He's here to.
He's here to meet a boy.
I got the
Cops are very. What was that about? Bringing a jock strap, wearing a job tag, and
Call the cops. Call the cops.
call the
You want to
cops.
Call the cops. Tell it.
Are you sure about that?
Come on, tell her to call the cops.
How you doing? Alright, what's up, man?
Something with him?
Basically, he messaged us first.
We told him off the rip.
This is where it starts without it not being able to show his messages. Because you got to get the pro membership or whatever. I don't know. It's weird. But I have all those messages above.
That's him. Can I see a picture of you and whatever you have on? Correction, you are 21 miles.
Let's watch this newsreel and then jump into the parole hearing, which takes place just 3 years after the catch.
Is under arrest in Connecticut after state police say he tried to meet up with a minor at a Willington truck stop. State police arresting Shawn Arnold over the weekend. Police say a group that aims to catch on the internet posed as a 15-year-old boy on a dating app. According to police documents, they had agreed to meet up with 45-year-old Shawn Arnold at the Route 84 truck stop in Willington. Police spoke with Arnold on scene, who confirmed he was planning on meeting with the boy but did not intend to have him. Arnold appeared in Rockville Superior Court earlier today and is currently being held on a $100,000 bond.
Sir, what's your name?
Shawn Arnold.
Okay, give me 1 second, please.
Yep.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Shawn Arnold in May 436771. He is serving a sentence of 10 years jail, 3 years to serve, followed by 10 years of probation for attempted risk of injury and enticing minor by a computer. As of today, records reflect the parole eligibility date of March 18th, 2024. There is no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows the offender has completed the following programs. Track 1, utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system. The offender's overall score falls within the low range of risk for recidivism.
Okay.
Utilizing the static 99R, the offender's overall score for such recidivism falls within the low moderate range. Mr. Arnold, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
I've made a brief statement.
Thank you.
Everyone says that they want to go home. I actually need to go home. I lost my father this past day after Christmas. He was 82 years of age. This leaves my only surviving parent, my mom, who was 81. We have approximately 8 acres in the state of Maine. I live in Auburn, Maine. That's where I'm trying to go back home to, and she is my sponsor. My mom's not really in the best of health. Quite a few years ago, she had her left hip operated on, and right now her right hip is bone on bone. So she's in excruciating pain. I mean, she's able to get around, don't get me wrong, but it's 24/7 pain. So she definitely
Mr.
needs.
Arnold, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Go ahead, please.
Mr. Arnold, a couple of things is we're live streaming, so we really, maybe not put all of your mother's
Information
out there. Also, we read all of where you came from and, and the loss of your father, and we, our condolences. However, what we want to hear from you today is why you are now suitable to be out in the community.
Not why you want parole.
Right, because we want you to want parole. You should want to go home. But why are you suitable for parole today?
Okay, I misunderstood what was asked. I apologize on that.
No problem.
Well,
Give that some thought.
well, like I said, I did the program. that was on the OAP, I learned a lot from it. That no matter where I'm at in the offending, there's always the ability to put the brakes on and go back. That there is no stage, except when you're actually doing the offense, that you haven't gone too far, that there's always the ability to, hey, wait a minute, this isn't right. I need to reevaluate and get out of the spot and get myself back where I need to be. Also, I learned that growing up, we really didn't express our feelings. We held everything in, and that's what I learned. And that's not healthy for me. I need to express myself, get my feelings out. So I definitely do plan on seeking mental health, either through, there's a website, I forget now what it's called.
It's okay.
But I've heard it through the different podcasts that I listen to. BetterHelp, that was the one. I do plan on doing that, seeking help through that. The only medications I take are for my high blood pressure.
Mr. Arnold, again, we're live streaming, and we would like to protect your privacy and the privacy of your loved ones. So how about we ask you some questions, okay? Because we reviewed your file extensively, so there's really no reason for us to go over your whole history and all that stuff. We have specific questions related to your offense, okay?
Okay.
Best of luck to you, sir. Ms. Palmieri.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. Arnold, as the chair said, we've reviewed your file extensively. So, as I said earlier, we did read about the loss of your father, and that your mother does have a large piece of property in Maine, and it would certainly be beneficial for you to be there to assist with that. What am interested in is I want to clear up a couple of things first of all. So, in the offense, it's you in one place say that you didn't know that the victim was years old, and I know that you never went through and it was a sting operation. But let's clear it up. You knew the victim was or was going to be
after a faction, yes.
Okay. So at some point during that conversation, it was clear to you that you would be meeting with a
Correct.
Okay. And your intention was to have a relationship with that man, a physical relationship.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Because, there are a few different spots where you do say that was your intention. And then there's other areas where you're more vague or you deny that that's the case. So let's just put that all out. Okay. Because as you said, to move forward and to do well, you need to be honest.
Right.
With what you're at. I want to compliment you on the fact that I read the summary from your 32 weeks in treatment, and my note to myself is that you worked hard. It sounds like you really tried to figure out what you need to be doing in the community to remain to not reaffect the right words. So when I read the evaluation from the long-term program that you did, I guess my first question is, what did you think about that program?
It was definitely well written, well administered. I definitely learned a lot from it. Like you said, like you had said, it allowed me the ability to think what I had done and what areas that, okay, I messed up here, and these are the spots where I could have backed out without realizing that I could have at the time. I went in with the thought, well, I'm offending. It is what it is. That I could not back out at any part of it. And in reality, I was able to back out, no harm, no foul type deal. So that has given me a tool. Like I said, being able to express how I'm feeling, what what emotions am I going through at any particular part of my day, to get that out versus keeping that bottled in, that's a resource. Family's a resource, friends a resource, better health, mental health, is a resource to actually activate versus to keep myself bottled in, which is what I have been doing, all my life. Basically, is whatever has been bothering me, I've kept it in. I've not expressed it or gotten it out.
So would you say this is really the first time that you've actually talked about what your preferences are and why that's wrong and how to address them?
Correct.
Okay. So you talked about in group, one of the things that you do towards the end of group is you put together a relapse prevention plan. And you talk about understanding protective factors. What does that mean? What did you identify?
Oh, God, it's been so long. I've
Well, I would think, I know it may have been, I don't forget. So you finished the program in January.
correct.
So it's been about 7 months. However, a relapse plan is something that you should be holding on to, something that you're able to refer back to and really fine tune as you go along in life and develop resources. So I need you to think about what you were able to identify when you completed that group as what your protective factors are in terms of your relapse plan. What do you understand that are what your protective factors are?
Of course, she kept all that material. She never handed it back. To the best of my ability for recollection, for me, it would be to stay away from like certain areas, like public restrooms, number one. Okay, yeah, I might go to a restaurant or something like that and have to use the facilities. So, to go in, do what I need to do and to get out as quickly as possible, especially if there is a minor there or even comes in while I'm doing what I have to do. That's basically one that, again, I could be way off the mark, but to the best of my knowledge and understanding, that would be one of them.
So let's think about it in terms of what are high risk situations for you in the community? Maybe we start there. Maybe that's better.
Well, basically everything I do, I'm always around people, so I wouldn't have any specific areas that would be problematic for me. Mainly internet, where access to underage individuals being in chat rooms. That would be one of my factors right there. So basically staying away from chat rooms would be something that would be beneficial for me, at least for a while anyway, 6 months, a year, or whatever it might be. I just put a number out there. It doesn't have to be that. It could be longer than that, could be shorter than that.
Could be forever.
Could be that. Like I said, that I just stuck a number out there just to.
Is it trigger?
Basically, for me, being one of my major triggers is feeling loneliness, not being loved, accepted. That's one of my major ones. Even if I'm in a group of other people, I always feel like I'm not even there, but in reality, I am there. Just not. That's one of my major downfalls that I've always felt. Just
Well,
needing to.
You do mention that those have been identified as some of your internal risk factors that you identified through group.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
So the summary that we have from your treatment, where you talk about what your internal risk factors are, what you just said, feeling lonely, depressed. And I'm going to move it along by saying that when you talk about looking into mental health on release, that those are areas that you'll focus in on.
Correct, correct.
Okay. You talked about having your mother as support in the community, and she has agreed to be your sponsor. What other supports do you have in the community, or what have you thought about in terms of developing some independent supports?
Well, I also have other family members, several aunts and uncles and cousins that are supportive as well. I want to get back to work. I've even thought of starting my own business up. So, keeping myself active work-wise will definitely also be beneficial for not only myself, but also the community. And to, if I can keep my mind busy, I'm not going to go off the path.
I made a note also that you said when we talk about things that you need to be aware of with yourself, and one of them is that you get along easier with teens and young adults. How do you plan to address that in the community?
Always make sure that I'm not one-on-one or isolated with a teen or a young adult. If I find myself that I'm going to be in that type of a situation, just remove myself from the equation in however way I need to do so.
You were unable to take the Voices program, which, is a good co-program for offender treatment. And the Voices program would have talked about victims and the victimization of individuals in these types of cases and the ripple effect. What do you think the harm is to the community and for these types of offenses?
For the, without taking the program, my take on it would be that they would feel like they did something wrong, that they're not worthy of a person. They would have a hard time establishing healthy relationships down the road. As far as the community, there'd be someone that would be, someone in my position would be preying on the younger generation, which may or may not be accurate, depending on the individual. With myself, I want to prove the community wrong, that I am not a predator, that I just want to coexist with the community, be of a value to the community as an individual, and even be like an entrepreneur type deal, starting a business to have people come in and work.
Right. Well, we're going to circle back because you're getting off course a little bit here. When we talk about victims, it's like you said, you were part of a sting operation, but had you been able to follow through, the harm to the victim in these types of cases is catastrophic. You talk about feelings of loneliness and depression. Those are some of those feelings of the victim, and trust. And it becomes, and you were part of a sting operation for a community that is fearful. It creates fear in the community also. All right, so you want to release to go to your mother, to live with your mother in Maine. And it looks like you would not go back to your prior employment of driving a truck.
Correct.
Do you see that as a high risk?
Being over the road, yes.
And your way of managing that is how? But talk to me about you. I know you have all this property up in Maine, but what would you do to support yourself?
Well, currently I work as a flagger directing traffic through road construction. Granted, it's during construction season. As far as the off season, I'm not exactly sure that I would have to work on, but I do plan on, at least researching how to start my own business to do pretty much the same thing that I'm currently doing now as a flagger / security enforcement officer. So that would be, establishing more jobs for the community to help support myself. And like I said, working as a flagger right now, that would be supporting myself. And in the meantime, in the off season, if I can't find, I don't know what is planned for me with the company I work for the off season. I don't know if it would be layoff or what that I would have to find out once I get back. But I do plan on finding employment for the off season, provided they don't have something for me.
Sounds good. Okay, so I did read somewhere that you were talking about being a flagger. I'm just about done with my questions, but I did want to ask you one last thing. So you had a conviction in 2006 in Maine for having sexually explicit materials, and you had 1 year of probation for that. Did you do any treatment while you were on probation?
Yes, it was similar to the program that I had here, but not as in depth. The program here in this state is by far superior.
So if you've had some treatment in the field, in the area of being a sexual predator, why haven't you been able to address that going forward? You must have talked about what your triggers are, and that even if it was a short bit of treatment, why do you think that you didn't get anything from that, or you relapsed?
Mr. Arnold, wave your arm so the light will come back on, please.
Okay. I was trying to do that earlier. Sorry about that. To get back to the question there, I think I just forgot, the different steps that I could have taken. It was a bad judgment. Granted, I regret doing what I did wholeheartedly.
Okay. How long was that program that you did? Was it the length of your probation period?
I honestly don't remember. If it wasn't the full amount of my probation, it was pretty close to.
Was it group or individual?
It was group.
And whether or not you get parole today or not, you will be required to participate in treatment. And in Connecticut, you're on the registry for 10 years, second registry. I'm going to assume that there's probably something along the same lines required for the state of Maine, if that's where you are allowed to return to. Okay. All right, Mr. Arnold, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Palmieri. So, Mr. Arnold, what does your mother know about your offense?
She knows pretty much everything.
No, your phone's on. His phone's on. Call your mom. Call your mom. And tell her what you're here to do.
What? Tell me pretty much everything, like what?
That I was at trying to meet up with a 50-year-old to have sexual.
Okay. So explain to me why, when you were in group, you found it difficult to share, and that you like sought out the teacher to speak to them after or before class started.
I've always had a hard time expressing myself in a group setting. I've always found it easier and more comfortable for a one-on-one situation.
Okay, but you do understand that you'll probably have to participate in groups going forward?
Yes.
And I'm getting a feeling that you're embarrassed by your charges, which I completely understand. But the only way to really combat this issue is being open and honest. And you'll have to have that conversation going forward, and it's going to be uncomfortable with several people, because you're required to be on the sex offender registry for 10 years, and you have 10 years of probation to follow your sentence. So it's really important that you're open and honest. So I say all that to ask you, when did you learn that this person was 15?
Well, it was the same day conversation, so it's probably halfway through the conversation would be my my recollection.
Okay. And after, were you talking about before or after you learned that the person?
I believe it was a combination of both.
Okay. And so when you learned that he was 15, did you ask him if you guys could have, and that if he was okay with it?
I believe so. Like I said, I really don't remember the exact.
Well,
I tell him, I'm 15, turning 16 in July. Are you a police officer? No. Are you? No. Cool. Send me a document. Bro.
I'm sure you do remember because I pulled up your article. Well, there's several articles on the internet, and the second the person emailed, text you, and said hello, handsome, and you replied. I mean, I don't know what the conversation was, but then the next sentence was, "I'm 15," and you still went on to have ask for sex. And the issue is, Mr. Arnold, that just like I could type your name in the computer and pull up your information, everyone will be able to do the same thing. You know, and you have to try to, again, this is a practice of open and honest discussion. It is what it is. You can't change it. The records are here, you know, and it's important that you are honest. Listen, you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but if you really are true about wanting to address these behaviors, then you really have to at first accept the fact that this is what you did, you know? You made a statement when you were talking with my colleague about you could back out of something, like when you were in the middle of this whole thing, that you could have, you thought you couldn't back out, that you were so versed in it, I guess, immersed in it, I guess, that you couldn't back out. What made you think that?
It was just, I really can't explain it. It was just a feeling that I had at the time that I couldn't, there was no backing out of what I did, that, you know, I had to keep going, even though I don't really remember now.
Well, I would say that it's something that you wanted. You knew that you could have backed out. The minute that he said he was 15, you could have said, yeah, you're not supposed to be in here, and delete. Could have said that, but that's not what you did. And you know the difference between right and wrong, you know, and you knew that what you were doing was wrong because you had already been convicted for something similar in another state. And yet you were so excited, I would say, about the potential of what could happen, that you set aside all your morals, you know, and it's unfortunate because the only thing I can think about is, what if it would have been a child, and what if a child had shown up there? You know, you wouldn't have played Monopoly. You wouldn't have, even though that's what you say. You would play games. And that's difficult for me to move past. All right, Ms. Turner.
I only have one question for Mr. Arnold. So in 2006, when you were convicted for the child pornography possession in Maine, I think you were about 31 at the time. What consequences, what price did you pay for that behavior, that crime?
Well, at that time, I was heavily involved in the Boy Scout program. I actually made, I grew up in the scouting program, so I had to leave that. And that was a major blow for me because I learned so much, you know, in the BSA, that now that I could not give back to program that the program had given to me. I had to leave that. So that was a major blow for me. And that was one of the major ones that I had to give up. The other one was not having a computer at the home, at least while I was on probation anyway. I lost a lot of friends. Even a family member turned their back towards me.
Just the one?
Just the one family member, yeah.
You should count yourself lucky.
Oh, believe me, I do.
So aside from being ostracized from that one group, nothing more? No social consequences?
Not that I can recollect.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Arnold, give us a few minutes to talk about your case. We'll give you our decision, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Miss O'Mary?
Yeah. So Mr. Arnold, he admits what he did, takes responsibility, I guess. Done the long-term sex offender treatment program. I think the summary of the treatment presents him in a much better view than Mr. Arnold was able to do for himself, to tell you the truth. But I do get from reading the summary that he did a lot of work on himself and identified a lot of what his triggers and his risks are. He has support in the community for his mother. I think he's got a reasonable release plan that will include treatment, some that'll be mandated and other that appears to want to seek on his own. He has the 2 disciplinary reports for refusing housing and the 1 probation that he completed back in 2006 for having child pornography. At this point, I would be willing to grant Mr. Arnold parole. It's about 13 months till he starts that 10-year period of probation.
Thank you, Ms. Palmieri. Ms. Turner?
Certainly the unpleasant nature of this offender's behavior and his willingness to participate in the victimization concerning. I think it'll probably be closer to maybe a year by the time Interstate manages transferring his parole. And I'd rather have him go out to a higher level of supervision, handling this transition, and holding him accountable with the conditions that we're going to put in place, than to have him go out and be sentenced to probation here in Connecticut, where he may not, in fact, have any supports or structure.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. So unlike the prior case that we just had, I have primarily all aggravating factors in this case. So I will not be able to support his request for discretionary parole, but I do understand why the 2 of you would he has taken the appropriate programs, and the increased level of supervision would provide public safety. So the conditions that I did have nonetheless were problem sex behavior treatment, no contact with minors, enhanced monitoring, porn restriction. Do we want to do that?
I did.
Okay,
He's got
because of
prior conviction
Yep.
and some admission.
and the halfway house because he wants to go to Maine. Anything else?
I think mental health evaluation and treatment, I know he's one and I know he's going to get it on his own, but it seems to me that it would be beneficial.
Okay, is there anything else? Okay, I move that Shawn Arnold 436-771 be granted discretionary parole on or after today's date, July 8th, 2024, with the following conditions. In addition to the standard parole condition, you are to have no contact with minors. You'll participate in problem sexual behavior treatment in the community. You'll also receive a mental health evaluation and treatment as deemed necessary. You will have enhanced monitoring on your devices, and also there's a restriction for pornography as a condition. You will you ask to be released to Maine, so it takes a little time for that. So we're going to put the halfway house condition on, and you'll be paroled to Maine. Did I say everything, ladies? Yes. Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. No, I'm sorry. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. All opposed? Aye. All right. So, Mr. Arnold, this is the majority decision. You'll receive all of this in writing. We wish you the best of luck, sir.
Okay, so just confirming I have been approved.
You are by
Okay,
a
thank you
majority
ver-
decision. Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Wow. So let's unpack this. Now they granted him a year and 2 months early. His full term date was September 18, 2025. This hearing was July 8th, 2024. So I don't know if we have to harp on the idea that he was released early. I do like that. I believe it was Turner who dissented and said no. We just have to send the message. This is his second offense. The first one that he's caught for, and the information that Richard provided in Maine was, they said that the images they found was under the age of 14. You always, I at least go there and say, if someone's caught in these sting operations, maybe it's a crime of opportunity. You can see he's totally, he looks like right out of the guys that you see at the Chris Hansen stings. They all have this kind of look and the social awkwardness but when you have the affirmation, the facts that he has a prior offense and that it's under that age, you know that there's a much deeper issue. There's a much larger problem here and then you find out that he was a Boy Scout instructor. He was a boy. That's what he was doing until he was caught. Are you kidding me? The proverbial hen in the hen house? Hen in the hen house. Fox in the hen house? I mean, I know it's no surprise to us. This is already, the idea of these organizations that they attract the predator is no surprise to us anymore. We all know that by now. But that a judge only gave him probation for 1 year, when you see that it is a man that put himself in the situation to prey upon others, and he gets caught with those images and he gets probation in just 1 year. A man who's a truck driver, which we see so many felons or truck drivers because it creates opportunity. It's scary. Again, those people that are put in charge to protect us, and they only had him to be on the registry for 10 years, which means by the time he was caught for this, he was already off the main registry. That just shows how much that makes sense, right? And then he commits his second crime, and Connecticut only requires him to be on the registry for 10 years. He clearly is a danger to society. And what's his risk factors? I mean, this is his own, after taking this program in Connecticut, the long-term program, what's his risk factors? Stay out of public bathrooms. What? You know, you watch these things and it just like, it just makes me like, how you can never send your kids to a public bathroom without being, which I mean is something we already in practice, but it's just a different level. That's his risk factor. That, I mean, it shows, I'm saying it shows how he thinks, that when he goes into a public restroom, it's like a kid going into a candy store. If that's the first thing that comes out of his mouth as a risk factor, and this person should only be on the registry for 10 years, this person shouldn't be locked up longer to protect ourselves. He says, well, I'll do what I have to do. Even if it means I won't be on the internet for 6 months or a year. He can't wait to get back on. He just can't wait. He likes to hang out with teens and young adults. And so the good thing on this little catch-a group, and thank you, Richard, for finding them. Now they only made, I think, 3 videos. The link to their YouTube channels in the description. We tried to contact them. They don't have any email address. Reach out to Bryden, who knows like 6 or 7 catch-a groups on the East Coast. He hadn't heard of them. His friends hadn't heard of them. So we did try to reach out to try to, but they were still new. They did things in this catch that it's not my style. The way they were, I would have done the same thing at their age. You get worked up, you're excited. These things come with time and practice. So I'm not gonna, but just sharing with you my personal preference after seeing it is I like more of the when you stay calm and they did a few things that also might have been considered borderline on on extortion even. But hey, they got a conviction out of it, which is amazing. And I was also impressed with how quickly Connecticut moved to convict him and how the police handled it. So that was great. Again, if you want to see the full hearing, you can put the link in the description. I'll put the link in the description. I like Alex Rosen. I said this before, and I was watching his channel the other day, and he actually gave our channel a shout out. So thank you for that, Alex. And if there are other groups that you like, send me an email. I would love to see if we can find any parole hearings. So this was the article where it goes into a little bit more detail that we may have missed. So the truck driver who's accused of trying to entice a fictitious 15-year-old fell into a sting set up by the unofficial group that notified state police only after members confronted him at the truck stop. Shawn, 45 at the time, told troopers that he intended only to hang out and watch movies with the 15-year-old, according to the troopers. But in a sworn written statement, the police admitted that he was using social media applications, discussed to plan this with the person he believed to be the boy, according to troopers. Arnold, not only that, but he even said that he wanted to take the boy on a 2-week trip with him. So he had that in the writing as well. You'll see that in the full video if you watch it.
So why did you want to take the 15-year-old boy on the road for 2 weeks? Do you really think that 15-year-old child's parents will let him do that?
I thought you would just want to go for a ride, see the countryside.
All right, that's not a ride. That's 2 weeks.
Well, unfortunately, the way my company works, I'm out anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Arnold was arraigned Monday in Vernon Superior Court on felony charges and attempted second degree. This attempted risk of an injury to a child enticing a minor via computer. It carries 9 months to 20-year prison sentence, and he ends up serving a total of, 1 year and 9 months or something of his 3-year sentence. They just wanted a quick conviction, They just wanted to say that they locked him up. During the arraignment, Judge Hope Seeley reduced Arnold's bond from $250,000 at the time of his arrest to $100,000 because, hey, why wouldn't the judge do that? And continued his case to June 18th. He was an inmate in Hartford Correctional Center Today, online State Department correction records indicated that although bail bondsman was in court Monday to try to arrange his bond, the group that set up the sting at the TA truck stop is called the East Coast Predators, and he's multiple date sites to catch. So they were 27 and 23 at the time. The profile set up with the social media application was 18-year-old, but the group member said that Arnold, through communications on the app, that the person was actually 15. Arnold said in his police statement that his first message to the supposed 18-year-old said, "Hello, handsome." He went on to say that he explained he was a truck driver from Maine and that he was at the truck stop. When the person said he was 15 rather than 18, Arnold replied that I'm cool with that and that I'm still interested. According to his statement, he said that he went to ask the boy's preference in his activity. He said that he then asked the person if he wanted to have with him, and he received a reply, "I think we can try." Arnold said that the person went on to talk about how he had to be home by 8 p.m. because his parents would be back by 9:30 to 10, and that he was using a ride-sharing app to get to the truck stop. It's interesting how he immediately confessed to the police. He immediately gave them a statement. Of course, if he had just said attorney, if he had even gotten his truck and just drove away, I doubt they would have continued the investigation. But we do see this so often that many of these people, their brains are wired a little bit differently, and they do confess right away. And I don't believe for a moment that it's about doing the right thing. I think it's just the way their brains are wired. That's my personal opinion. But man, this is why we do this. I love it. I just love the idea that, there was this, it's not a fad. Maybe some wanted it to be a fad, but certainly a trend started by I think the real OG Chris Hansen, the GOAT, and it has grown into something much, much bigger where there are all these smaller groups that are doing catches. And now, a bunch of years later, we get to actually see the parole hearing. We get to see the sentencing. And hey, in a few years' time, we may do his revocation hearing or have another news story on him. I don't believe for a second that they have the ability to stop themselves, to control themselves. It's just about how long or when they get caught. That's my opinion. And with that, I'll let you go.
I'm just here on FaceTime. Me and my partner couldn't link up, but I just want to give you guys an update. We did get a call from the State Police Department, I think Troop C. Shawn was locked up. They went and searched his truck and everything else, and he got hit with about 3 charges: luring, enticing a minor, and a few other ones. I forgot what the cop said, but he's on a $250,000 bail as of now. It might go higher, but yeah.
It's crazy. I can't believe that this happened, and because usually I don't ever see these predators getting arrested right on spot. So seeing this, it's
bro. Seeing that actually was nice, and it makes you want to keep doing this kind of stuff.
Exactly.
You want to see them get arrested.
Exactly.